The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Today is June 5th, 2019, episode 142. And this week, CRISPR Machete and a week in VR. My name's Basil.
And this is Gonz. Welcome to the podcast where we talk about other news with Canary Cry views.
That's right. We're so happy to be back. And we caught my last CCNT here for the next month or so with just the hint of a cough.
Oh.
So, yeah. We still haven't bought a cough button, but I'll try it. I'll be careful.
Yeah. So what's happening? You're disappearing for a month again? You're leaving me?
Yep. Going on a grand voyage to parts unknown.
Great.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to listening to 4 weeks of Gonz. Bringing the news, baby.
I'm gonna
alone.
Make it very dark. I'm going to take it to very dark places while you're gone.
Yeah, but don't worry, folks. We'll keep going. I mean, there's still a chance. I don't know. We were talking about getting like a mobile rig. So
we live in the future.
Report from across the world. We did not end up doing that, but I could figure out a way to do it from some sort of coffee shop if they have those in other countries. Do they have coffee in other countries, Gonz?
They do. They may not have internet in coffee shops. Probably less of a thing in the, But
we'll figure it out. Maybe I'll tune in for a special update.
Sure. Yeah. Well, we're going to start off with the Flippy update here.
Flippy update.
Do you want fries with that?
Ooh,
Gonz,
epic. Yeah.
You're bringing the Flippy update today.
I am, because I noticed a couple days ago, the IEET that we've been tracking for a few years now, they just dumped a whole bunch of videos of their robots.
Yes.
And a lot of them, there were very interesting ones out there, but a few of them I wanted to show you was, first off, the robot taiko drums.
Okay.
So this is a humanoid robot playing a taiko. You can check it out here.
Oh, yeah. Very. Wow. Okay.
He's
taiko drums. Just so that's kind of like the Asian
Japanese
drum.
drums.
It's like the Japanese drums. It's like the drums they played at the beginning of the Olympics a while back.
Maybe. I don't know.
I think China had like a taiko drum or some sort of drum presentation at the beginning of the Olympics.
Sure.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't very impressed by this guy.
No, and the thing is, like the large movements, he kept hitting his head with the drumstick.
Classic.
So a little clunky.
Yeah.
Not impressed, right? Yeah.
Okay.
This one was a little bit more creepy. This one is the automatic gaze shifter of NAO robot. Poorly timed condition, but I'm going to play the sound here, but all it is a robot keeping eye contact with you.
Yeah, I'm looking at him. By the way, this is the first time I've seen these robots. Looks like that classic sort of Honda style robot.
Right.
And just moving his head back and forth, keeping eye contact with you.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Weird, right?
Again, not super impressive, but all right.
All right. So this next one, this is the last one I have for just time-wise here. Team Keist's DRC Hubo robot completes task at DARPA Robotics Challenge. And this is no sound here, but you'll see.
This is fun.
Yeah, you got this is.
This is my first time seeing all these, by the way, folks. And this is a humanoid robot. He kind of looks like, if anybody plays Apex Legends, he looks like the robot from Apex Legends. And he was driving a golf cart rather well.
Yeah, he pulls up, jumps out.
Moving his way, gets out of the golf cart, moves his way into sort of a setup workshop, and weird mobility on this thing. He doesn't try to walk. Yeah, he gets down on his knees and rolls around.
He looks like Johnny Number 5 without the the chain wheels on the bottom. Instead, he's
Yeah,
just
and
on his knees.
so he seems to be just kind of doing some tasks. He's taking a little saw and sawing a piece out of a piece of wood. This is actually this is pretty impressive. We'll have the link in the show notes, everybody, so you should check it out. This is the best sort of all-purpose robot I've ever seen. He's kind of just making his way around, grabbing tools and accomplishing tasks. He could be actually a pretty good robot butler.
Yeah, so I wanted to highlight the difference between some of the low budget projects that are out there, the roboticists and stuff doing their stuff, eye contact and, taiko drums, compared to the DARPA robotics challenge robots that jump out of golf carts and start, cutting wires and stuff. And
no, this is way better. This he's moving into a little construction site, making his way through some debris there.
He's hardcore.
Kind of went into sort of a defensive posture.
Put his elbows up like, hey, if you want to fight me, I'll elbow you.
Yeah, and then when he gets to some stairs, he stands back up out of his sort of rolling position and climbs upstairs with backwards knees. Yeah, this is one of the most impressive sort of all-purpose robots I've seen. So there we go.
Yeah, keeping in mind the video is 20x, so I think the real robot was going very slow.
Very, very slow.
But it's impressive.
I like him driving. I'm more impressed with his driving skills at the front than anything else.
I like the way he got out of the car, or the golf cart. That was the best part.
Very carefully. It kind of reminds me of my grandpa getting out of a car. But okay, there you go, Gons. Thank you so much for that flippy update.
Yeah,
I'm for the robots.
As far as the Robo Vacuum update, honestly, I'm very sad since he started screaming at me last time. I have not run the Robot in 7 days, officially 7 days.
Oh, the death of your robot, especially because you're going to be gone now.
I know. And again, I was just like thinking about calling them and getting another replacement, but I don't know. I'm just kind of like, I'm morally defeated right now.
Sure. I have something just real brief for you here.
Let it rain.
Okay.
Because we're in the
Let it rain. Gons' basketball update.
Because we're in the NBA, NBA finals, and okay. So they have their Sports Center ESPN hits that repeats over and over and over again after. I don't know if you know this, Basil, but after like a game, the Sports Center thing, they do their hit piece about the night, and then it just repeats all night long. That's what ESPN is. So just imagine the conditioning there. I'm going to play a clip for you and just picture the imagery. Okay, they're in Toronto, but here's the clip here.
Back in Toronto. Don't say the second T, kids. It's Toronto. The president in the house. The Drake in the house again.
So you got the Drake, and you also have the president. Who was who do you think was on screen there?
I don't know. Drake and Trump?
You would think so, right? No.
Okay.
It was actually Obama. Obama was at the game. And I thought it was very subtle that they called him the president because according to...
Instead of a president?
Or former president. The official sort of way to do it, the standard way that is recommended for forms of address and stuff is Mr. or Mrs. and then former president. Mr. or
I didn't
Mrs.
know that.
Yeah. So that's according to Emily Post.
I knew they kind of held on to the presidential sort of title.
Right. I've seen these hit pieces before, and they always say former. They'll say former President Bush attending the baseball game or whatever. They always stick the former, and then they also say the name. But interestingly, with this one, it was just the president.
So ESPN is
revealing their loyalties.
Not my president people.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, that makes sense. They're owned by Disney.
Yeah. They're the Lib Joe types. Anyway, that was just brief. I wanted to do that because, it
matters. It matters. Language matters.
Yeah, and the way it's being portrayed and all that stuff. So
yeah. Okay. So we still apparently have President Barack Hussein Obama.
CRISPR. Cas9.
Okay, so a little update here. We've been tracking the Chinese CRISPR babies, and this is from, the original source is Berkeley News, berkeley.edu. CRISPR baby mutation significantly increases mortality. Whoops. A genetic mutation that a Chinese scientist attempted to create in twin babies born last year, ostensibly to help them fend off HIV infection, is also associated with a 21% increase in mortality in later life, according to an analysis by University of California, Berkeley scientists. The researchers scanned more than 400,000 genomes and associated health records contained in a British database, UK Biobank, and found that people who had 2 mutated copies of the gene had a significantly higher death rate between ages 41 and 78 than those with 1 or no copies. Previous studies have associated 2 mutated copies of the gene CCR5 with a 4-fold increase in the death rate after influenza infection. And the higher overall mortality rate may reflect this greater susceptibility to death from the flu. But the researchers say there could be any number of explanations, since the protein that CCR5 codes for, and which no longer works in those having the mutation in both copies of the gene, is involved in many bodily functions. We can go on, and Guns, you have a little bit more on this. But I thought it was very interesting that this mutation, being condemned mostly by the scientific community, but kind of secretly applauded as a step forward in human evolution. I thought it was very interesting how specifically gave you higher chances of getting the flu. So, if you're born with this mutation to make you better, you better get your flu shots.
Yep.
Get your flu shots, folks, because
the Hegelian dialectic.
Yeah, I know. Is the biggest sort of bio-Hegelian dialectic that I've seen. I mean, this set off a lot of bells. Obviously, flu shots being pretty controversial for those who are kind of keeping an eye on both the any control mechanism regarding your own health and the state's control over that. And there's been obviously such a huge pushback against the flu vaccine in recent years. And I think this could be a real cash moneymaker for the flu vaccine makers, Gons.
It sounds like a perfect death loop, We need to genetically engineer you. Oh, it didn't work, or we need to keep you healthy. Flu shot.
Yeah,
Genetically engineer, flu shot. It's just an endless cycle.
Right. Well, it's funny because the genetic engineering was to keep you from getting HIV, which is pretty easy to avoid by just like being cool for like a second and not participating in risky behaviors. That's
Sure.
how you not get HIV. On the other hand, so you get this mutation that makes it so you can just go wild and not get HIV, yet you're just going to get the flu, and you need to get vaccinated for that every single year, which means, you get the flu every single year.
Yeah.
The Hegelian dialectic at its maximum play, if you're looking at the long-term sort of population control mechanism being put in place.
Yeah, for sure. And the technologies with CRISPR, they're gonna keep advancing as well.
CRISPR Cas9.
So this is in addition to the update here. CRISPR enzymes protects bacteria by turning infected cells on themselves. This is hhmi.org. It's the Howard Hughes Medical Institute.
Oh,
and
nice.
the summary here is Cas13 enzyme defends bacteria from DNA viruses by targeting the host cell's RNA. Until now, the strategy has never been observed in bacteria. And later on, quote here, the enzyme Cas13 was discovered in 2015 and is part of a family of proteins that includes Cas9, an enzyme best known for its role in gene editing. In the popular tool CRISPR, for example, scientists have used Cas9 to insert or modify specific genes. In nature, Cas proteins are a key part of bacterial immune systems. They disable viruses that infect bacteria by snipping the invader's DNA or RNA. Scientists already knew Cas13 was a bit of an oddball in its family. If Cas9 is a scalpel, Cas13 is more like a machete.
Dun, dun, dun.
It cuts in specific targeted locations, but also slashes off target. And unlike most Cas proteins, it cuts RNA, not DNA. Quote, Cas13 has already become a very powerful diagnostic tool, says study co-author Alexander Miske, also at Rockefeller. Researchers can use it to quickly identify viruses in patients' blood, even those present at very low levels. Quote, what we didn't know, he says, is how Cas13's behavior affects bacterial immunity. So there you go. Just more technologies that they're figuring out
so
here.
Cas13 is like a wildly drunk Cas9. It just goes chopping away.
It chops at larger chunks. Yeah. It's like it's less of a jab. It's more of a swing,
Okay.
Full on blow.
Sounds like a blast.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on, guns. Unless you have anything else there to tie that up.
CRISPR Cas9.
Just got to get that new jingle in there.
I just like the bass slides. You love the bass slides.
I do love the bass slides. In my own bass playing, I realized that, I put a lot of bass slides in my bass playing, and it kind of reminds me of like a 90s cop movie. Maybe like a aerial shot over a city, but just a lot of bass slides to get the energy going.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, there's a bit of bass news for everybody.
Are you ready to become cyborg?
So this is interesting. We're going to talk about VR a little bit here. And Gons, you and I realized we don't have a virtual reality jingle.
Yeah, we don't. We really don't.
So we got to call on our producers out there. Those of you who want to dabble around, I'm telling you, just take a few minutes, dabble around on some sound software, record something or whatever. We need a jingle for virtual reality and maybe augmented reality in there. We'll just let your guys' creativity go.
Yeah.
And so do that. Send it to canarycryradio@gmail.com. Because we're going to have a lot more virtual reality news in the future, Gons. And this is why. This is a video on YouTube. We're not going to play anything from it here, I don't think.
Nah.
But it's got 17 million views, which is pretty impressive.
Yep.
It's from a Disrupt, which is a YouTube channel called Disrupt. I think they do a lot of technology stuff. And this guy spent a full 7 days in virtual reality. And so this obviously connects with a lot of the stuff we're talking about. We obviously talk a lot about the virtual avatars, where a robot across the world or in a factory somewhere, you'll be able to slip on a VR helmet and operate that robot. And it's one way for those who can't leave their house to work. Also a great way to, employ those who are unable to be employed, stuff like that. At least that's the benefit that they're trying to project. Also VR, a lot of interesting applications in education where kids can put on their VR headset and suddenly be across the world experiencing something. Also, VR is a great opportunity for CEOs to really blow it on some PR, like Mark Zuckerberg being VR in a disaster zone, smiling, being like, whoa, it's almost like it's real. Yeah, Mark, it is real. People died right where you're standing, you dumb lizard. You dumb lizard person.
I am not capable of hatred.
But this guy spent a whole week in a VR headset. And
right in his house.
Right in his house. He's in a 500 square foot area, and it was pretty intense. It's a 16-minute video, so we'll put the link in the show notes. Everybody needs to check it out because it's a glimpse into the future, and he obviously is aware of kind of the drawbacks, the fears, the implications of this, but he was actually the first that I know of to actually produce something on this and show us all what it'd be like. Gons, you and I were lamenting that we didn't think of this first.
We'd had the opportunity to do stuff like this, and I in my mind, I had thoughts about, just being, innovative reporters, so to speak, of some of the new technologies, and we still might do that. We can still, be the first ones to report on blue beam UFOs or something, if we can figure out the people to give us the technology and just show
That's
us.
right.
So
yeah, we'll do
we're
our
open
own
to that.
project, Blue Beam. But so this guy spent 7 whole days in both virtual reality and augmented reality, because he did need to do things like get up, walk to the bathroom, go to the kitchen, cook some food, stuff like that. So he would switch between sitting at his computer with virtual reality, sort of hanging out in virtual spaces, going to hanging out in virtual worlds with other people, going to movies, flying around Google Earth, doing all that stuff, which sounds fun until you have to do it for like 170 hours or
68
something.
hours, yeah.
But there are a couple things to note. One of them, just to get a full picture, he would close his eyes as he switched from his augmented reality to his virtual reality.
Right.
So for the entire 170 hours, he was only looking into some sort of headset.
Yeah.
Now, for those who need a refresher, augmented reality is where you're still looking at a screen, but there's a camera on the front of your headset, so you can see the world on the screen, and then just some augmented, displays come up. And he didn't spend layered over the real world. And he didn't show too much video of what exactly the augmented reality he was working with was. But he goes really in depth about the type of toll that this was taking on his body. And, for those who don't know, in the virtual reality sort of ecosphere of apps and applications and software, you can do everything from just watch Netflix to hang out with friends, to explore the world, to go into like meditative states.
A lot of social things.
A lot of social things.
You can even exercise and do that kind of thing. But the thing that really,
games.
The part that really stood out to me was when he was sleeping, because he would sleep in his VR goggles. He would, throw on, and I think it would be kind of interesting to, flip on a movie and not have to like stare, crank your neck to look at a screen or something.
That does sound nice.
We personally don't have TVs in our bedrooms. That's how we live, Basil. But, but anyway, so he was going to sleep in the VR. And so one of the things he mentioned was he would start dreaming in VR worlds where he would walk into a full, narrative type deal, and he'd be introduced to a little, floating thing, menu system or whatever.
HUD, yeah. He would hit a virtual reality menu in his dream.
Right. And then he'd wake up and then he'd be in a virtual reality.
Yeah. And this was a couple days in. So yeah, he couldn't even escape the virtual reality in his dreams, which sounds pretty nightmarish.
Yeah. And then he mentioned having deja vu over and over again.
Yes, a lot of weird psychological things like that. He was a few days in, he started having deja vu like multiple times a day, which I guess makes sense.
It makes sense. You kind of you become familiar in the digital space, and that everything is digital. So it's like, wait, even though it could be a new not virtual, but a new visual experience. It's still all kind of the same virtual experience. So I can see how that can start messing with your head.
Oh yeah, no, he talked a lot about kind of going a little stir crazy. He just started like yearning for nature, his creativity. I think his normal job involves a lot of creativity. He lost all creativity. And so he was like, oh, maybe it's because I haven't been in nature. I've lost all creativity. And so he went on Google Earth and explored the earth and went into the wilderness and went and saw the Eiffel Tower and stuff like that. And he said it was very refreshing to get into a space that was at least reminiscent of real life. Yeah, but without the sort of smell of the air and feeling the wind on his face and stuff like that, it just wasn't the same. And I don't know. He talks a lot about the psychological effects of what he was doing, and he didn't necessarily have anything too extreme besides the obvious. Oh, also he was live streaming the entire time. He had a 24-hour live stream on him in his house with iPads and things like that, specifically to get used to being watched 24/7, which is a part of, the life in VR.
Right.
Because
Everything
with all
is
the privacy
quantified.
issues, every movement you make, everything is, it's really the ultimate panopticon as we know it today.
Yeah, and it's interesting because he came across people within the world, and some of them were interviews or sit downs or conversations, and that those things were highlighted in the video of people saying like, "Hey," and their perspectives I thought were interesting. One of the guys said, "Hey, yes, all this information is being recorded, and it's all kind of how things are. Like anytime technology increases, some of that information can be used against you, type of thing,
Right.
And just the attitude was very interesting. That it was kind of, well, we know it's there, but there's all this other benefits to being in the space or whatever. So I don't know. It's just maybe it's a little cognitive dissonance that's on full display. Like we fully understand what this is and the potential dangers, but we're going to do it anyway.
It was a very interesting video. Recommend everybody go to the show notes and check it out. And at the 167th hour and 1 minute is how long he was in it. And he took off the headset for the first time in a week and used his real eyeballs to observe the real world. And the look of elation was, you could tell this was a magical moment to actually take a look at the real world. So I think the lesson to learn at the end of it was, I think he enjoyed the real world significantly more than being in VR for a week. And he went outside and felt the wind on his face. It was a big deal.
Yeah, and the top comment in the video there is 2019, spending 1 week in VR, 2077, spending 1 week in real life.
That's right.
And he might be right about that.
Yeah. All right, Gons, you got a quick Nephilim update for us?
I do have a Nephilim update.
Nephilim update. Nephilim update. Nephilim update.
VanityFair.com. Yeah.
They love Nephilim over there.
I know. Meet the 19th century pirate who taught New York's tough guys how to flex.
Whoa.
In life, Albert W. Hicks was a slum-dwelling killer. In death, he became the template for New York City delinquents, up to and including Donald Trump. Okay. So this is basically a story about this guy named Albert Hicks, who was the last man publicly executed in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
He was hung on Bedloes Island, now Liberty Island, home of the statue, on Friday, July 13th, 1860. He was around 40 years old and spent his life at sea. And hang on, because my highlights disappeared, as they tend to do. Hicks became an underworld touchstone, credited with creating the gangster code and the civilization that grew out of that code. Probably the best depiction of Hicks was in Herbert Asbury's iconic text, Gangs of New York, in which the pirate is depicted as a demon, the exact wrong sort of man to lock eyes with in a Cherry Street dive. Hicks occupied a special place in the lost criminal world of the New York waterfront on the eve of the Civil War. He was its prehistory, its forefather. He was like one of the Nephilim that turned up in the oldest parts of the Bible, the bastard offspring of fallen angels and mortal women who walked the earth in a time of chaos and disorder.
Nephilim update. Nephilim update. Nephilim update.
So there you go, straight up Nephilim reference.
There you
in
go.
Vanity Fair for the last man publicly executed in New York.
Okay, folks, thanks for listening to this episode. Now, here's the thing. We have a whole nother episode that we are about to record, and that is for our Patreon supporters. So if you guys want an entirely different and additional episode of Canary Cry News Talk every single week, you can head over to patreon.com/CCNT for the extended report. This week, we are going to be talking about years and years of spoilers of transhumanism and a new game, which is a cultist simulator. But if you guys still have friends who are not listening to Canary Cry News Talk, you need to grab them by the face and shake them.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages. Let it ride.
That's right. Let your friends know where to get their news if they want to learn about robots and AI and virtual reality, VR, everything that is quickly approaching to take over their lives. Let them know about Canary Cry News Talk. Sorry. And thanks for listening to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk, and make sure to tune in next time. But until then, think outside the cage.